Welcome everybody, Edvin24 here, and I've been on a hiatus for about a few days. I caught a cold, so I couldn't really record, but I'm more or less okay now, so here I am doing another review. It's not really a review, more as it's just a discussion, so I'm doing another video. I'll definitely be doing my Curibus review. I wanted to do it like a few days ago when it was still fresh in my mind, but with my cold, I completely forgot like pretty much the entire manga. So I'll be doing that later. I'll reread it and then I'll talk about it. But right now, I'm gonna be continuing a series, a video series that I had going but just stopped doing. Yeah, I'm here to talk about anime, and I am truly convinced there's a conspiracy against it. Well, I can't say necessarily just anime. I guess foreign media, foreign shows, just in general, I think there's conspiracy may be a harsh word, but I definitely think people, at least the media companies and TV stations, don't want foreign, don't like it or don't promote it at all. The reason why is because I think that I may be speaking for a lot of people. I may not be, but this is the way I see it. At least in the intellectual ones, and I think I fall into that category too. The intellectual people in this country do not watch television. They do not, because they figured out what television is. It's there to serve commercials, which is all fine and good. Like selling commercials is perfectly fine, but it's gotten to the point where quality of shows and writing of shows it's diminished to the point of being non-existent. I have not seen a show, at least in like the general kind of like TV stations, where it really is this reality television. I don't even think it's really reality. The reality television as a word is a buzzword, and it's an incorrect buzzword. I think at least live action would be more appropriate, or what I consider personally the term that I think fits reality television more accurately would be augmented reality television. Because live action or reality television as it is not reality. I can't even say that news is really reality, because a lot of it is just like one political pundit leading to one side or the other. And the general consensus of the media, at least in like the major news outlets, at least cable news anyway, but yeah, but there's a conspiracy against, I think, foreign media. The reason why is because foreign media presents something that companies don't want to do. They present a threat, and they're giving an incentive or a product that people don't regularly find in this country. The reason here, for me personally, a show must accomplish three things simultaneously, minimum. It must have an episodic plot, it must have a season plot, and it has to have an overall series plot. Anime usually more or less accomplishes this relatively well in comparison to American media. Vastly superior. I mean, with the possible exception of maybe superhero shows, and even that really doesn't have a series plot. It's usually just season plot with kind of like, I don't want to say filler, but kind of like standalone episodes to kind of diversify and like just give something different to the show, diversify the show's outlet and dynamics. But yeah, that minimum it must do. It must have episodic plot, it must have season plot, and it must have series plot. Generally speaking, American television does not have this. Moreover, I'm not even getting to stuff like characterization, plot, foreshadowing, literary elements of conflict, antagonists, villains, the morality of shows. I'm not even discussing that. I could go into that. That's another video topic entirely. But generally speaking, the reason why I think companies choose not to do this, and yes, they choose not to, isn't because it doesn't make them money, or even because it's too expensive. It's because they're trying to cater to an audience of people that are most likely to buy their products. And I mean mindless consumers. It's one thing to just have maybe that one or two commercials that some people might buy and some people might, but I mean mindless consumers. Mindless consumers, usually their intelligence level and thinking capacity is below average, and I don't mean something like a mental disorder. I mean just they're just uneducated. They're willfully ignorant. They choose to be ignorant and they choose to remain ignorant. They make shows to cater to this audience specifically and this demographic, and completely negate and completely forget about the intellectual side. And even shows that try to be intellectual and are supposed to be intellectual really aren't. I mean, shows like The Big Bang Theory, although it is scientific in nature, it really isn't intellectual because it is technically a comedy. And the jokes are either, you'd either have to be a science major, Stephen Hawking or Albert Einstein, to understand the jokes. And even like when it's explained to you, the humor is tried out in the inability to deliver the comedic jest that they're trying to do. But that's another thing. But media in this country caters to, I don't want to say stupid people because that's kind of insulting. I don't want to, that's not who I am. I don't want to insult people, but they cater to the lowest common denominator in the general American public that is most likely to mindlessly consume the advertised products that are presented on television. That's number one. Number two, anime in America, in all honesty, sells. It sells, and the reason why it sells is because it fulfills what I just said. It fulfills typically an episodic plot, it has a season plot, and it has a series plot. They know that intellectuals will buy into anime, and companies thereby must pay, I won't say they usually, but generally they will be forced to pay, usually for like broadcasting rights and copyrights and like those kind of liberties, to pay to Japanese companies and other foreign companies, but typically it's 90% of the time it's Japanese in origin. Japanese companies primarily to be able to broadcast their programming on American television, and they don't want to do that. They don't want to have to go through the finagling, the lawyers, the manpower, the hours to be able to buy the rights to a program and then broadcast it. And if it doesn't do well, they're now stuck with the rights. They bought it, or they have to continue paying for it. So, however the license exists, yeah, and anime sells in America. I'm sorry, but a lot of the franchises, at least like, they're not really American, like, but they're generally recognized franchises. A lot of the video games, Sony's video games, Wii games, those are Japanese. Pokemon is Japanese. Dragon Ball Z is Japanese. Digimon is Japanese. All these American kind of, I wouldn't say they're franchises, but America does not have franchises anymore. With the exception of maybe DC and Marvel and maybe some of the other kind of small comics like Image and Dark Horse, they don't have franchises. We don't. You might consider maybe that occasional like hit TV show, maybe like Ben 10 or like Avatar. But I think we don't have franchises anymore. We just don't. When we choose not to promote them because that costs us money. And the reason why, and I've noticed this, I recently tried to watch a Cartoon Network show, Ben 10 Omniverse. I don't know if anyone knows it. I watch it simply because I have loyalty, but once you see something that's good and you now have that level of expectation from just other television shows. Generator Rex is, I think, had the potential to be the next big franchise, and they chose not to invest money into it. The reason being, one, it costs too much man hours in animation and hours in animation to make it look that quality. Number two, complex writing. This really didn't do a lot of complex writing, but it was vastly superior to the general kind of writing that you see in television. It had very good. You can see when a story is very planned. This felt very planned to me. They had the 3 seasons set up. It left enough wiggle room to try and do maybe a sequel. I hope they do a sequel because I actually found out the show kind of, I was exposed to it, I think, 2.5 years ago when it first premiered. I think in like 2009 or 2010 when it premiered. I watched the first 5 episodes. I just couldn't get into it. And it's not until maybe about 2 months ago. I kind of was just like, this show is still on the air. I was like, is it really that good? I said, you know what? And I kind of had like one of the monkey character like in my head. I said, you know what? I'm gonna watch this show and see why I like this monkey character so much. Bobo Ha. I kind of just enjoyed him because he was kind of like he did this kind of whole I want to say gambler type alcoholic character archetype, which I found kind of entertaining. So I rediscovered the series and started rewatching it, and I fell in love with it. That's like for like the 2 weeks, like I caught up like throughout the entire series. I caught up. I loved the plot. I can't believe I thought this was bad. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. But that's not. But when you have that kind of show that has complex writing, good animation, and general just very entertaining, that's what people expect. And I would rather have, I think, maybe 4 or 5 shows completely milked in franchise-wise from like major outlets that are well written than 10 or 15 shows that are poorly written, and usually the acting is horrible, the voice acting, depending if it's live action or animation, or the animation's horrible, again, depending if it's live action or animation. Like, Disney has mastered this art. And I noticed this kind of like when they started going for the whole teen idol kind of franchise archetype. I noticed this, like, with Hannah Montana, I gave it some leeway. Like, the first season of that show, I kind of watched it by accident with my sister. In all honesty, it really wasn't horrible. It was something different. Same thing with the first High School Musical. I mean, I'll be honest, I enjoyed it. It wasn't terrible because it was something that this was something that was a relatively new idea and concept to Disney. So it wasn't like they were milking it for all it was worth. But then they just started, this is all they produced, and now it's just gotten to the point where it's just cliche, it's old, it's not interesting. There's no character archetypes, there's no character development, there's no plot, there's no. This is why you need to have. This is why it's critical that you have season and series plots, because it gives the viewer an incentive and a reason to come back and watch your show. If you look at modern day shows, I'm talking stuff like on Disney and like stuff on Nick, like SpongeBob. You watch one episode of any of those shows, you have a general kind of idea of the overall theme and progression of the story. Not even the story, the show. You understand what the show is. If you can understand the complexity of a show watching one episode, you have failed in making a television program, because you as the broadcaster must write the show in such a way that pretty much any episode is enjoyable, but it also gives an incentive and a reason for the viewer to continue to watch your programming. If you cannot fulfill this requirement, your television show and television station is doomed to fail absolutely. There is no excuse for you not to even attempt to fulfill this, which is why I got into a problem with a lot of Disney. In all honesty, if you're an intellectual or even moderately intelligent, I'd say in all honesty, do not watch television. It's gotten to the point, like, with the possible few exceptions, and I can tell when a show just by the trailer, and oh, honestly, that's sad, but I can tell by the trailer how the show is written and how well it's going to be written. And if usually 9 times out of 10, I'm usually correct in my prediction that it being terrible or it being fantastic, and that's a problem. You can tell when something's written well, and you can tell when something's written badly. I have about 30 seconds left on the clock, so if you're an intellectual or moderately intelligent, if you're a parent watching this, I tell you in all honesty, do not let your child watch television. It is not good for them. It does not enhance your understanding. It does not. And here's another thing that kind of annoys me, and I'm really over on time. Television programs do not promote morals or humanistic values anymore. This is Advent 24. signing off, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.